Welcome to This Team is Killing Us, a podcast about what the Carolina Panthers do to good people. I am Demetri Ravanis. She is Lauren Brownlow. And Lauren, what is killing me this week is running back depth.
What running back depth?
Yeah.
I don't know her.
Running back depth or lack thereof. Jonathan Brooks out. Same exact knee, same exact ACL. Does this probably mean same exact length of time? Like, are we talking about another, 8 months to a year?
I mean, I would imagine, okay, this is hard for me because he's a human being. Sure. And he seems like a nice person. I don't wish ill upon him. Okay. But this is what I was worried about.
This is what I meant last week or it was a couple of weeks ago when I clarified that I like the player. I did not like the pick, the pick. And, again, I tie this back to my kind of initial hesitancy of the Chuba extension of, okay, this feels like you're admitting you're not quite sure about, at some point you were not quite sure about your running back situation. Did you draft?
Well, Brooks? They literally extended him before I think Brooks had even played. Right. If I'm not mistaken.
That's right. Yeah. He got his extension the week before they went to Germany, right? So yeah. So technically before Brooks even dressed. And that's what I meant. Like, did you draft Brooks because you weren't sure about Chuba, and then did you re-sign Chuba because you weren't sure about Brooks? I thought
maybe they felt that strongly about Brooks's potential. Like, there are people that I know you're one of them that really liked what he could do. I have friends like that too. Like, I was debating over text recently about the pick because my thing was like, you've got to be an other generational type of talent for this to work out, and he's got to stay healthy. And I just don't think both of those are going to be true.
Yeah, I mean, things are changing a little bit in the NFL. The year before Brooks got drafted was it was the year that Bryce got drafted. Didn't we have both Jahmyr Gibbs and who was the running back taken before him, much higher up? Than that, we had two running backs of the top 15 picks. Like, we're not in the age of the best running back doesn't go until midway through the second round anymore.
Bit of a resurgence, yeah.
So, I think had he not been hurt, Jonathan Brooks would have been a first round guy. That being said, I now look at Brooks as, you hate to say a wasted pick because there have been examples of dudes injuring the same ACL twice. This past weekend, we played a guy that injured both ACLs, one of them twice. But I would note that the difference is we had seen Saquon Barkley at his best before that happened. As a fan, it is just really hard to accept that you're going to have the patience here.
Yeah, and it's hard as well because, it's like it's to happen so soon. He's barely been able to start
3 games.
Even I didn't think that would happen. Like, I assumed he'd get hurt again because that's just what tends to happen a lot with these not all the time, but with these types of injuries, it just, you often see them recur. But we've come a long way in ACL stuff, and I understand. Like, I was like, you never know. Maybe I'm the idiot, and then all of a sudden you get this news, and it's just like, ugh. Like, trust me, we all have a lot of sports opinions based on one, and we like being right.
Yeah.
I promise I have never felt this bad about potentially being right about something. I did not want to be right about this. This does not feel good. I don't like it.
Lauren and I have a old acquaintance that does some of these ACL surgeries. It is not his specialty, but in the past he's done ACL surgeries. And he did a surgery one time on a top tier NFL running back, maybe top tier all time NFL running back. And he said that the only reason he thought that guy was able to recover from his ACL injury as quickly as he did is because he had never seen a body and muscle definition like that before. We are talking about, though, 10 years ago. I mean, the technology, you're right, has caught up to the point that this should not absolutely set, or I guess maybe it would not be crazy to assume we're not talking about a year until Jonathan Brooks comes back. But
it's that's not even the issue, I don't think, as much as it is like, wow, already that same ACL. Well, that's not good.
And that's what I was going to say is I think it is also fair to wonder just how long he was dealing with this at Texas before he had either admitted he couldn't go anymore. The doctor said, okay, enough is enough. You've got to shut it down, because he was playing to be drafted at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And it just stinks. Like, it is what it is.
100%.
It just stinks for him the most, obviously. And, I was looking forward to being wrong. In fact, I was starting to feel that way. I was like, I hope I'm wrong. Like, this might be really, like, he might be everything people say he is. And it might just be completely worth it. And I'll shut up. And it could be like D'Angelo and Jonathan Stewart and whatever. And then Blackshear gets hurt. And, then you start looking down underneath the couch cushions for some extra running backs. I don't know if they found any.
Yeah. And it's interesting, the timing too, because it felt like we were starting to see a page turn with DaveCanales. And part of that is the aggression, which we'll get into. But part of that was also the recognition that you could make Bryce better later in the game by letting him develop and watch, by just handing off a lot earlier in the game. By the end, obviously, Chuba was the workhorse. I can't imagine that's what Canales wants going forward. It should be pointed out, Blackshear is listed as questionable for this week, so maybe that immediately gets taken care of, but who's to say?
Have they signed anyone? Like, at this point, like, they had Sanders, they had Brooks, they had Chuba, they had Blackshear, and the tiny running back. If I'm forgetting one, I'm sorry. But, like, I don't think you can give tiny running back, like, carries.
And I think,
traditionally speaking,
not that this matters, because once a guy is on the field, you're going to use him however you want to use him. But I think Devin Tompkins, your tiny running back, I think technically is a wide receiver, and I'm only pointing that out.
I thought he was listed as a running back on the site.
I'll have to double check, but like, that's why I'm pointing out. Like, it is just the absolute, like, number of red lines through guys with RB next to their name on the roster right now.
AndyDalton, you want to get some carries? Let's go.
Yeah, you're aching to get back on the side or the field.
No, JK. Maybe Johnny Hecker. He's a big guy.
Why not? Let's talk about the positives. This new way of thinking that we saw on Sunday from DaveCanales. I want to play you what he said in the post-game press conference, because you have to respect this. Like, he was directly asked, like, hey, we haven't seen you do that before. What the hell was going on there? And he answered pretty bluntly coming in. They felt like they had to do this.
Just knowing we were playing a really good offense, playing a really good team, trying to be aggressive in those areas, where we could potentially be in those fourth and manageables to try to make some of those happen and steal a possession. We felt like they were going to be able to run the ball, with some success. And we thought that if we could steal a possession or two here or there to keep us out there and give us a chance to score points. So that was kind of the thought going in.
I played that clip for you, Lauren, because I wonder what it is you are hoping for here, because I think DaveCanales is smart enough to recognize that's not the last quote-unquote really good team they're going to play, right? Like, the Buccaneers may not be great, but they're hot right now. Arizona has shown that they can get very hot very quickly. Like, so does DaveCanales look at what is at stake the rest of the way and say, okay, this is kind of who we have to be now, is an aggressive team like this?
Maybe. I mean, look, one thing I have noticed with Dave, and I don't mean this in a mean way per se, but like, I don't always get prophecy out of his post-game commentary.
Sure.
Like, a lot of times he'll say something and you'll be like, oh, okay. And then the next week it'll be completely different. And you're like, well, never mind. I guess. And it speaks to like him learning as he's going, I feel like, almost too. Like, I'm not even sure he knew why, because that was such a shift in philosophy. Like, even in the Chiefs game, they didn't do that as much. And obviously no one would say they don't have a dangerous offense. And I think, like, look, I guess we got some grief for complaining about Dave last week and whatever. And again, we're not complaining about like Dave, the coach, in concept. It's just more like, why are you coaching scared? Like, you even said
Agreed.
scared money don't make money in your video, and you're right. And what I loved about this was they weren't scared. And you know what? Like, we talked about him seeming almost like panicky before in the play calling, and just like it was just like, what? Like, he didn't know what was going on, and he seemed way more like in the flow in this game. Like, every time they called a play, I was like, yes, that's it. Yes.
Yeah,
like, I was happy with it.
There are some real Hot Frosty vibes to Dave Canales in that he discovers something and goes to like 11 on it, right? So you certainly hope that this aggression stays in a meaningful, manageable way. Because remember, like, he did go for 5 first downs. One of those was pure necessity on that final drive of the game. I'm not taking credit away from it. I like the aggression, and I think most of the time it was 100% the right call.
And
go ahead.
You knew that they were calling plays that way because a lot of times they were facing like a 3rd and long-ish or long, right, and then they would get like a chunk of that to set up the 4th and shorter, which I loved even more. Like, they would always call a play that would get them at least some of that back to enable the 4th down to be like, I think most of them were like 5 or less, except for like 1.
Yeah, I think it was the last one, right? That they took the delay of game on that ended up being a 4th and 9, I think, if I remember right. But yeah, I mean, look,
that's the one.
I want to see it stay because even though once they beat the Giants, I thought 4 wins was as realistic as we could get. At this point, like, it is kind of undeniable that even though the results have not been there in the win column, this is kind of a team that the rest of the league is watching and not wanting to get in that situation with. Like, at some point, I want to see these coin flips go the other way.
Well, I know, me too, but it's at the same time, and I wrote about this obviously because I meant it. Like, this is big picture what I wanted out of this team all year. Just like show me some proof of concept, show me the offense getting better, show me that you're still trying, that you can stay in games and hang around. I'm not expecting you to beat a bunch of teams that you're probably not going to be as good as, but like, show me. And look, even the defense played really well. Like, overall, I mean, yes, they gave up some stuff, but like, they're not on paper very good. So like, I think the defense is also doing a great job and making some plays. Like, getting Jewel back has been huge for them. You just want to see the fight. You want to see them just, if they're gonna lose, go out, like, don't go out like a punk. Like, go out trying, go out like not being afraid, going for 5 4th downs. Like, that is what I want to see.
Yeah, 100%. The remaining schedule is Cowboys, Cardinals, Buccaneers, and Falcons. Why? Look, I don't think they're going to end this season 7-10, but why would you not believe that it's possible? Right? Like, given the way this team is playing right now, why would you not believe it's possible?
Yeah, of course. Then my draft brain immediately kicks in, and I'm like, well, we don't have to have 7.
Listen,
that seems like a lot.
The good news is, if you got to 6 or 7 wins, I still think there are edge rushers that you would be in a decent position to take. So, like, look, just get me to 5. Just get me to 5. I think that is a reasonable expectation for this team.
And look, I think I would not have thought in my wildest dreams that you would see BryceYoung looking this way either.
For sure.
And so that's even better than I could have hoped at the beginning of this season, to be honest, to see him, out there, like, just having a great time.
So let's talk about what Dave's relationship is with Bryce, only because, there was this question that David Newton of ESPN asked him, and it was a follow-up. First, David asked him, like, what he has liked that he's seen out of Bryce. And Dave Canales gave this, like, super glowing, positive answer, like, even more positive and definitive than he has been since Bryce became the starter again. But the follow-up question that Newton asked was, what would have happened if AndyDalton had never gotten that thumb injury? And it really sounds like Dave Canales had no intention of going back to Bryce, at least when he did.
Yeah, it would have been really interesting, and fortunately we got the opportunity. Bryce got the opportunity that he did, and on the other side of it, like, I was pulling for Andy at the time too, who was, building some weeks. He had a couple of rough weeks and was like, okay, here we go. Let's get this thing back on track, and so it's 2 stories, and that's life. And Bryce made the most of his opportunities, and here we are, just with the weekly growth, and took another step in a positive direction against a really good team. And so, that's where we're at. It's like we're week to week, here we go against the Cowboys, and we'll have to lock back in.
All right, so two things there real quick. Yes, two stories can be simultaneously true. 100% agree with Dave Canales on that. What is a bold-faced lie is, though, AndyDalton absolutely was not stringing weeks together by the time that
well, he had strung a couple together,
right?
But
and
he was not anymore.
No. Yeah, then it fell off the table like in a huge way. I do believe that Dave Canales is very happy with what he has right now. But I think he's being very honest when he's like, he's not committed to like, this was the plan or this is exactly what we wanted.
I'll be honest too. Like, I wasn't thrilled that they had to. And in fact, look, and I'm sorry, this team has earned 0 of my injury-related trust. So, like, there was a part of me at the time that was like, is his thumb really that bad? Or just Tepper really want Bryce back out there? Like, what's going on? I did wonder that because we've seen them like exaggerate injuries before or straight up fake them.
With Bryce.
Yes, literally. And so I was like, I wonder if this is real. But either way, like, I just think there was no reason at that point, I don't think, to think that like, oh, that's going to be so much better when we go back here. I mean, I don't know what they see or don't in practice or what they can even know from that. But I mean, look, they'd see Bryce practice great all preseason and look great. And then he gets into that game against the Saints and looks a disaster. So, you just don't like, I can see why after having seen that, it would have spooked me too. If I'm the head coach, like I wouldn't be eager to put him back in either.
Yeah, agreed. I think that it is something that I said after Canales' first press conference, and I can't remember if it was on the show or just you and me talking, where I said it seemed like there were times in that press conference where he was talking directly to Bryce. And one of the things that he said was that a quarterback is the team. We are going to go as he goes. And I think now Dave Canales has seen enough out of Bryce to say, maybe not it's going to be okay, like definitively say we're going to be okay, but to say, I see how this works. And I would not blame him at all if after week 2, he didn't see how this was going to work.
Yes, absolutely. And I agree with you completely. And look, at the end of the day, like all you need out of your quarterback for the most part is like a good, steady demeanor. You don't ever get too high or too low. And, you feel like they have the capability to make a play for you. And we saw that out of Andy the first couple weeks and then not again after. And obviously he's, close to my age. So I know his joints probably just ache in general after games, much less like getting hit and whatever. So none of us thought that was going to stand up the whole year. I don't think any of us did. But at the same time, it was like, okay, well, he clearly puts them in a better position than Bryce in that regard now. But you just honestly, like his demeanor has just shifted so much. Bryce's, and it keeps shifting, honestly. Like you keep seeing him leaning more into this, like, I'm going to go make a play right here. I'm going to make a quick decision. I think you see, like, you're seeing both Bryce and Canales, interestingly, like kind of learn to trust themselves a little more, like learning to trust their instincts and their gut. And before there was a lot of, I feel like maybe overthinking and second guessing and hesitance. And you don't see that nearly as much now.
Yeah. And what's interesting is once you have been as low as Bryce has been in the NFL, I think it is, and look, I've never played quarterback at all. So, aside from two-hand touch pickup game.
Could never be me. No.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Like, I cannot speak to what is reality, right? But I do think when you have been as low as Bryce had, when the camera catches you literally crying after you throw an interception, I am really impressed by when you put the ball in David Moore's hands and he drops it. When you put it in a place where only Xavier Leggett can catch it for a touchdown and he drops it. I am very impressed by BryceYoung being able to move on to the next play, because the guy that broke down, in tears after that interception he threw against New Orleans, he would not have been able to just move on to the next play.
No, and you know what? Even in like his rookie season, at times he kind of looked like that meme of like the lady like doing the math equation on the screen, of like, like it was like you could almost like see his wheels turning, and he was so serious. And I remember being like, is this what we have to watch for like however long he's the quarterback? Is this like super serious dude who's like, and I was just like, I don't know. And now you just see him like cutting up and joking around with people, and just like the smile is just like, it's contagious. Like every time I see him smile on the field, I smile too. And I'm like, who is this person? Because even when he was playing okay, sometimes as a rookie, like he was never having a good time, and you can see that he was not having fun.
Yeah, I mean Mark Sanchez referred to it as like, you are seeing Bama Bryce come back when he rolled out of what looked like was about to be a safety on that final drive. But it was so not just that play. There was also a moment, I think it was in the third quarter. It looked like the Eagles were going to get him for a sack, and he ends up turning into like a 3 or 4 yard run. There is like, I am having memories of the dude I saw in Tuscaloosa that you just thought, okay, we'll get him back on the next play. And suddenly he turns it into
pulls a play straight out of his ass.
Yeah.
Like just straight out of there.
I think given what we saw in year one and the first 2 games of this year, I totally understand why there are people that will never believe that Bryce can live up to that number 1 draft pick. And he's not there yet, but he is showing you what it is that caught everybody's eye. And I will say, again, I'll reiterate, I don't blame DaveCanales for thinking that kid was never going to get it back. But I think a lot of the play calling, sure, 100%. I think a lot of the play calling you see is a result of him believing, okay, Bryce gets it now.
Yes. Like I've commented on it more than once, but it still boggles my mind because like, at first, it was almost like any third down conversion.
Yeah.
I'd be like, wow, that's fun. It's like a Christmas miracle.
Yeah.
But then it started to become, now it's like, oh, they get a 3rd and 11. And I still get in this trap in my head of like, well, there goes that possession. Right. Okay, bye. But he can pull it out and has. Like, he can convert those.
And it wasn't just Bryce, right? Like, even when AndyDalton was the starter, it was the whole team. Like, I think I texted you 3 games in a row. The game started with, Carolina gets the ball, they punt. Opponent gets the ball back, they punt. Carolina scores a touchdown. Carolina gives up a touchdown. And the game is out of hand.
Oh, and P.S. It's always a 3 and out. It was always a 3 and out in the first series, and there would always be a false start on 3rd down, which is my favorite. Just as a treat for me, I'd be like, "Are you serious?"
So, so forget Bryce or set Bryce to the side because he's just part of the story. Like the whole team has turned this page, and I do wonder. With the team turning the page, with Bryce turning the page, with Canales turning the page, can we move forward in this new story and adjust for whatever the reality is of the running back depth chart now? Because I have this fear that they are going to get a little bit more conservative with the game plan because Canales doesn't want to hand the ball to anybody but Chuba. And that might be the necessity.
Yeah, maybe they try to do more like short passing game related stuff to kind of like substitute for a run game. Maybe we see more end arounds now.
Yeah.
Which I have mixed feelings about. Some of them have been great and like kind of cool and well designed, and some of them I've been like, please stop.
Yeah, I mean, like I think if Tompkins is going to take over some of those like B-back carries, you're going to have to do some of the like, wacky pattern shit you did with him in the backfield the first game. He was on the team because I don't know how you let that guy run between the tackles. I just don't see it.
Unless they don't see him.
Maybe it's not between the tackles. Maybe it's literally underneath the center is the way.
Just like I'm just envisioning him like darting under their legs, like, and they can't. Oh, where'd he go?
Right, like when Sylvester Jr. is playing baseball in one of those cartoons.
Yeah, it's like he's not that tiny, but he kind of is. He's
he kind of. If he is both shorter and thinner than Bryce, he is indeed that tiny. I think we can agree to that.
Yeah, literally, I'd have to look at a depth chart. I don't know who else is even on the roster at a running back spot.
Yeah, I don't. Again, I think it's really important that Blackshear is listed as questionable and not doubtful or out.
I don't like questionable either.
No, me neither, because Jalen Coker is also listed as questionable, and that would really help Bryce.
That would help a lot.
Get another target he really trusts. But until I see him on the remember, In Germany, Jonathan Brooks was listed as active and didn't even bring his jersey. So you never know what to think about with this team.
That's what so when I say questionable, I'm like, I don't know. Now I feel questionable. I'm sure. I wonder if Chuba feels questionable. I'd be like, if I'm Chuba, I'm like, is there a practice squad guy we could like?
Yeah, see, they've got to do that, right? They've got to bring up somebody or sign somebody just for the rest. The holiday season is upon us. Christmas and Hanukkah both are on the 25th this year. So 2 weeks away. Why not give the gift of OG Triangle Media, whether that is an OG fan subscription, which you can give by going to ogtrianglemedia.com, or whether that is our show happening in January, the Basketball Jones with Bomani Jones down at the Rialto. Tickets are available now at therialto.com. Just click on the events page. If you or somebody in your life loves Triangle Sports, make us a part of their holiday experience this year. ogtrianglemedia.com or therialto.com. Just click on the events page to get tickets to the Basketball Jones. Lauren Brownlow, this week, will be the first time in 2 years the Carolina Panthers will take the field as a favorite in an NFL football game.
Oh, God, no.
Our friends at DraftKings set the opening line at 2.5, a 2.5-point favorite over the Dallas Cowboys. I have two minds here. Okay, all right, bear with me. I have two minds. Number one, it is undeniable that this team is making progress, and it is also undeniable that the rest of the league recognizes that. So if you are telling me they are a 2.5-point favorite over the Cowboys, I have no problem believing that is a legitimate line. I also have been gambling long enough to know that Vegas really wants to play with your emotions when it comes to the Dallas Cowboys. So do you, Lauren, believe they should be the favorite, or do you believe this is number chicanery to move some money?
I hate it, for one. I can tell you that. Also, like, this is infuriating. We played the Cowboys during the undefeated almost the Super Bowl season on Thanksgiving. And the Cowboys were like either 500-ish or close to it. Panthers are undefeated, right? Like, playing great, looking great. It's at Dallas, I think. Mm-hmm. But I remember how mad I was. Dallas was a favorite in that game, betting-wise. And I was so mad about it, and they were too. And they took it out on them because they didn't feel like a favorite after that. But I was like, now this situation where, like, we deserve it less, in my opinion, to be a favorite than we did then. And here we are a favorite just because, is it because Dallas is so sucky? Maybe that's really what part of it is. Like, when Dallas sucks, they just go all out. You know?
I mean, not only, so there are a couple things going on with Dallas, right? Like, as bad as the injury situation is in Charlotte, it's so much worse in Dallas. And also, did you watch any of the Monday night game, both actually or the Simpsons telecast?
No, I need to try to, I don't know if this is the Simpsons telecast replayable on Disney.
I think on Disney Plus,
because I know my kid is very, like, he could only see the beginning and he was very upset by that. He wanted to see all of it. And he said something about the Cowboys and I was like, the Cowboys aren't good. He's like, the Cowboys are good. I'm like, they're not. Don't fall for propaganda. But so
your son could star in the football is trying to make you hungry commercials, except think the Cowboys are good. So I got a little bit lost because I am such a huge Simpsons nerd in how great the Easter eggs were for people that have been watching The Simpsons for a really long time. However, I did notice no time that I actually looked at and paid attention to the score were the Cowboys even remotely in this game. And part of that is because they just cannot stop giving the ball away. Like, Jerry Jones must want his lasting legacy in this league to be, if he's not going to win another Super Bowl, the owner of the most generous team in the NFL. Like, I have no trouble believing we are going to be the favorites in this game because I don't see a world in which the Cowboys can win another game.
See, but when you say things like,
I don't
see a world, it's not even a Dallas thing. It's a Panthers thing.
Sure.
We don't do well being the favorite.
Yeah.
We don't like it. It's
if I could be real with you, Lauren, I'm just gonna have to take your word for this because I don't remember the last time this team was a favorite. Like I can't even tell you what the game or the situation was.
I don't either. And not that they've been doing that well being a not favorite. But I think there was a time or two last year where I remember us even looking at it going, yeah, they should win this game. And then them not being able to. Like those are the games in my past as a Panthers fan that have infuriated me the most because it's like every time you want to feel good, like you have this tough stretch and you play all these top teams really well. And then you get into a team like an opponent that's sucky and you're like, great. And then they just like faceplay it. And so I am terrified, quite frankly, to be a favorite. And I hate it. And please bet on the Cowboys, please, everyone, because I need this to stop.
Yeah, I will point out last week I told you 12.5 point underdog. They will absolutely cover that. And they did. I think they're going to win this game this week. So here's my question to you, Lauren. And
I don't want to lose to them.
No, I hear you. So here's the way I want to end the show because I think you and I may differ a little bit on what we expect. Like I have record expectations for the end of this season for the team. Do you or are your A, do you have expectations? And B, are they about wins and losses or are they about individual guys?
It's not, I mean, I know this sounds like so cheesy and whatever, but genuinely it is not about a win or a loss to me.
Sure.
You've seen them lose against teams that they were supposed to lose to by similar scores and have very different reactions because the games played out differently. And so like for me, that's what I want to see is just more of something akin to what we saw last week. Now it is opponent dependent, obviously. And so like, am I saying that I think they should conceivably win 2 of their final games? I don't think that's unreasonable.
I wrote down that they should go 2-2 with no problem. I don't
Which
see
2, I don't know.
Oh, see, I don't see why they couldn't go 4-0. It doesn't mean that I think that's what's going to happen. I'm saying like I don't think anybody left on the schedule is particularly good, but if they don't get 2 wins, I'd be disappointed.
That's kind of where I'm at, I guess, considering the opponents and like considering that they're beatable. You would like to see them get 2. I mean, obviously some of it depends on like how the games play out and everything else and whatever.
Here's the other part too, is what's going on at the top of the division. Cause our last 2 weeks are the Buccaneers and then the Falcons. Like how serious are either of those teams taking that game?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, that's going to make things. I love the division this year. It's so funny. I just wish they could have beaten the Buccaneers so we can kept to this coastal division redux live for the NFC South. I love it here.
Yeah, it's had they beaten it, just because I cannot think.
No, it would have been like a jumble at the top at that point.
Okay, I was about to say because I cannot think of what the records at the very top of the division are in my head. Would they have still been in this if they had beaten the Buccaneers?
They still would. I mean, I think they would have only been like a game back.
Yeah. What a dumb division.
Which is hilarious.